things that I did see.
Yeah, things
which
that you
then
believe
Yeah,
could be beneficial to you.
Right. But yeah, I think what I was able to get from what was going on and what I was trying to see is more beneficial to me down the road for what I was trying to get out of that.
The things you were trying to learn.
Yeah. And you know, like I said, everybody watches, oh, Naeem won that battle. Yeah, because of what he was able to do, his hit me in the head, whatever else. And that was fine. But for us, we're not looking at that. I think we look at that fight differently, that what can you learn from what's going on and what's happening? How do you train in real time
Right.
of your own, for your own training purposes, right?
Your own ideas.
Yeah.
One of the things that came to mind as Rick was explaining what he was trying to get out of that was we preach that whatever you're training, whatever format, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to give it purpose. Whether you accomplish that purpose or not, that would be the gauge for what you were trying to do. So the purpose itself is to learn something from it or to gain any kind of information from it as we explore the different things that we can do. That if that was our purpose, is to explore. If it's to determine my conditioning aspect of that within the fight that I gas out. Why? That's what I'm trying to find out. But I need to give that purpose. And if I can see the manifestation of that purpose, then in real time, then I've accomplished what I was trying to do.
And I think, for me, when I see people sparring, it looks like they're just going at it.
Right, just swinging.
Right. They're not, you don't see the techniques pop out of there. You don't see ideas popping out. You see two guys just going, and that's all it is.
But in their mindset, what is it?
Yeah, well,
right.
that's
We don't
just
see
it,
that. You don't see it manifest.
Don't see it.
Yeah, and you look at that and you say, okay, what was the thought behind it?
Right.
I mean, all you see is literally.
But only they can answer that.
Yeah,
True.
but even then, you know, when you look at some of these, you don't think they could even answer it just because they look like
They're just.
I mean, when we go to tournaments, what do we see?
It's just a point. They're just trying to get the point.
Right. But
That's it.
Are there any techniques in that? They're just flailing about, right? And for me, when I'm sparring with Naeem, let me try something. I have an
Try
idea.
to bring the art out.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring an idea. I'm trying to say, okay, what can I do here? Okay, he's going for whatever. Okay, good. Boom, boom, boom. Now I try to do what I do. I'm learning so much more from taking the hits from you and understanding where they're coming from, what are the angles, blah, 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 that I can get my hits in. And I do get my hits in. Okay, good. I was able to get something out of this in this volley. And we reset and we do whatever. If that's what we should be doing every time we're sparring, then I think it makes sense. And understand where am I going wrong, or what is it that I can do to make my thing work. And if you're trying to fix something, that's the best place to get it to try to fix. In a pressure atmosphere where the guy's going crazy on you.
Yeah, there's no set rhyme or reason.
And are you savvy enough to get through that and say, okay, I'm getting hit, but I want to try to do this one technique in between of this barrage to make it work.
Because that was one of the thoughts that popped into my head as I'm debating this in between believing in something and knowing something is we've been hit. We've been hit multiple times. I've had training knives to the face, my own stick hitting me. Risa clocked me in the middle of the forehead one time. That left a black mark for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I've been hit.
Right.
But I've never been punched in the face.
Right. I can do that.
Now, I know I don't want to experience getting punched in the face.
I believe it could hurt.
But I believe it could hurt a lot. Which is why I don't want to get punched in the face. But I also believe that I can take a certain amount of punishment.
Right.
And the mentality behind that isn't so much, I can take the pain. It's, I can do something afterwards.
Right. And that's what it should be.
Capable of being
functioning.
able to respond.
Yeah.
Right. You're functional right after.
Right.
And that's a key element, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't never want to believe that, I'm never going to get hurt. No,
I
should be
started
worried.
to remember one of our flow sessions in my yard.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about a certain concept and principles of fighting. And in the process of our free flow, it came out.
Yeah.
And I said, that's exactly what we were talking about. And I did it in real time at that moment, at that time.
We were going fast.
And we were going fast. And we were doing everything. All of a sudden, it manifested within that free flow idea,
Shocked
this
the hell out of
chaotic
me.
thing. And it stopped him, and he said,
I went,
"Oh my
"Ugh."
God, I can't believe I got that in there." But I was working it.
Right. But
I
that
was
was
working
your
it.
focus. That was
That
what
was
you
my
were
focus.
you were working on.
Right.
Whether
You had an idea.
And you weren't.
I was
compliant.
I was not trying to let
No.
you do anything. I was doing my own thing.
And I think that goes back to what we were doing today.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to do whatever. I just wanted to try to do my thing.
Right.
You had a mission.
Right.
And that was
Let
it.
me accomplish this, and boom, okay, I was there. And just like you said, it pops up, and you're like, boom, I got it to work
Ooh.
in this instance.
Right. Going back to the idea of it in that particular moment.
And again, purpose.
Mm.
Purpose of training.
Now, then it could be said that you created the moment to happen.
You could argue that,
I
yes.
could. I could have. I put the things in place
Right.
because I knew what I was trying to do. And
Now-
I needed his hand in a certain
This is
position.
an interesting side story to that because Nain and I were playing chess. We were letting these two people move the pieces.
Yeah, we were telling
but
them
we
where
were
to
telling
go.
what move to do because they were both novice players, and I was saying, "Oh, do this." Nain would counter with, "Oh, do this," and we were going back and forth, and we were going back and forth to a point where Nain was trying to counter all the things that I was doing. Unbeknownst to him, I was setting up those counters for him to counter the way I needed him to counter, thus him losing the game. And I said,
Posthumously.
Nain, did you see what I was doing? And he realized, yeah, you were moving a lot of steps way before, and I did. They were
A
not
bunch of misdirection.
bunch.
Chess has always been one of my go-to analogies as far as your tactics. You're ahead of your opponent, 2 or 3 motions ahead. For every one counter you do, it's received by 3 different ones,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And again, that's the way the thought of a chess player is, that you're ahead, 2 or 3 steps ahead of your opponent. So you were doing your thing to get him to do his thing, not thinking that he was actually leading you to do those things so he can do his thing.
Half of the lead was this.
Yeah, I was saying things.
He was just
Yeah.
jabbing, and
Yeah.
I was like, what is he?
I got him to look where I needed him to look because of my phone.
Misdirection.
Yeah. But a lot of it was verbal. A lot of it just kind of came out, and then once he started making his moves, I realized, oh crap.
You do know he's a poker player, right?
Yeah, I know.
That's another analogy.
Yeah, there was never a time in that game that you were in any way the
Ahead.
lead of anything
Ahead.
Right.
at all.
Now
You
do that to all of your opponents.
Yeah, that's a blow to the ego.
Because at the end of the game, and you had to keep thinking, goes, he's the one who taught me. I'm never going to be. Because
I did say that. I did say that. She was asking for help, and I said, look, he's my teacher. He taught me everything I know. So
Even chess.
just let it be known. Let it be known.
that I'm probably not going to win this game.
Yeah, because
So-
it boils down to
So when
strategy.
that black chip jumped over the red chip,
That's
and
checkers.
then you got crowned, what happened?
Wrong game.
That's why you lost.
I was
You
playing-
weren't even in the
Yeah.
game.
I was playing checkers while you were playing chess, and you lost.
You lost that
I
one.
thought that was supposed to be the other way around.
Dude, it was a classic game of chess where you had no clue
For
what was
me, it was
going
just a
on.
comedic moment.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm glad you laughed.
I
Yeah.
laughed.
I'm glad you enjoyed
You know,
it.
and the thing is, after he realized what was going on, he said, "Yeah, there
It was
no
too
way."
late.
Yeah,
It was too late. Yeah,
It was too late.
all of his counters were like giving me better.
it was set
positions.
up. It was set up that way, so it can't.
Yeah, he was. It was
So, one of the questions I had before you got here
Uh-huh.
was, Nain's got a 2.5-hour drive. I wonder if he trained.
and he
coming
drove
here
in
with
with
the
Dion.
Came up here with Dion, one of our students.
You said no,
Only because
His quick answer was no.
but the answer
Of
is
course,
yes.
the answer was yes.
Yes.
And that, at that point, I was proud.
he
Yeah.
was proud. We have cars moving in and out.
In and out of
park.
wherever they're doing. So, yeah, fun times.
Okay.
But we did. We talked about the
Because that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
understand what you guys talked about and how it was received, how it was returned in the conversation. How did that come about? Or what did you guys talk about?
we didn't talk about anything specific, but the main topic was always how do you process information? How do you take what you know and make it available to you at all times versus just training something and then completely forgetting about it and moving on with the rest of your day?
and I'm glad you said, because in training, you're not processing anything other than doing movements, right? So that's really, but how do you process information?
Right.
It's totally different from the actual training. Processing information to me is going home and thinking about, what did I do all day? What did I get out of all day? And how do I use it all day?
What do we ask at the end of each class?
What did you learn?
What did you learn?
Yeah, right.
But there is a certain point in the processing of whatever it is I'm being taught, especially if I just heard it for the first time.
Right.
I'm trying to understand that. Again, the meaning or the lesson itself needs to be put in here first.
Right.
And then from there, the processing will then manifest itself in this physical ability.
Right.
Without the processing, there is no ability.
And we've always said that it's got to go through the mind first,
Yes.
before it can get to the physical. Because if you can't get it in your head, you're not going to get it in your head.
So are we flat out saying that you need to spend more time thinking about it than actually doing it physically?
Well, how much more is more, right? Because you get to a certain point that you understand it and you process it at a first level of understanding, and then you bring out the physicality of whatever that is. As you layer upon layers of more understanding, the physicality of that
Becomes more apparent.
or changes ever so slightly
Because of the way you're constantly thinking about
because of
making
the
your
process.
adjustments.
Right. Then it gets to the point that it's done all of its changes that it could ever be. Now the processing takes place as, how do I now develop this? How do I make this the best that it can be?
Do you see what he's doing here? He's leading us into mental checklist.
I know
he's playing chess with us.
He's been
This-
trying to since like the beginning of it. I caught
Oh, I
on
know.
to that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I wanted to bring up something because I brought it up with Dion while we were having the conversation that we haven't said in a while. Good, better,
Yes.
And best, exactly.
because you reach a certain level, and like I was telling her, you don't want to go backwards.
Right.
So it's good now, but you need to go through the mental process of, how do I make it better so it can be the best it can be.
Right.
And you constantly repeat
Now
the process.
let's go ahead and give Danny his mental
yes, yes,
checklist,
sir.
so he can because if he doesn't get this out today,
he might
he might kick our ass.
Yeah.
You guys
might.
will have to put me on another show that requires at least 3 hours minimum.
That would be the Danny show.
All right.
You like how I set that up for you, brother?
I have been trying these guys, trying to get them to understand the mental checklist, right? Because you train, and again,
Right.
earlier I said giving yourself purpose. That checklist is, as you check them off, that is your purpose for that time of training. Whatever it may be. It might be just understanding footwork, the triangle, forward triangle. You come out, you come back. You go forward, you come back. Forward triangle. Or a reverse triangle, I can go here and here. But I'm trying to process that information,
Right.
right? So then I go down my checklist. How wide do I actually go? If I'm trying to do reverse, do I step out here or do I step shoulders width and give myself a little angle? Maybe 30%, 45%? No. If I go any bigger than that, 90%, 90 degrees, then it's more of a lateral movement, right?
Sidestepping.
Sidestep.
Equilateral triangles,
Yeah.
30.
So, as I practice those triangles, am I getting to that proper angle? If I'm looking at a clock on the ground, there's 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock. That's where I'm stepping. I'm not stepping at 2. I'm not lateraling movement to 3. I'm stepping to 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. That way. If I need to step back, I'm stepping at 5 o'clock. If that was an equal clock going around where the numbers are spaced out accordingly, am I actually stepping? Is it 1:30? Is it 1:45? No, I need it to be at 1 o'clock. So as I process that, okay, that's what I'm trying to get first. Now, as I come forward, what's next on my checklist? Speed in which I shift. I want to practice my shifting
So
as
you
I
then
go, pop out.
develop that skill set to be able to.
to be able to do that. For us, the triangle is not even there. The idea for the triangle for us is the switching part.
Yeah.
How fast can I do that? Because now instead of going from 1 o'clock, I could go directly to 10 o'clock. Because now I can step off at any other points. But it's that switching that gets me to that point. So that's next on my checklist. Now, let's put a weapon in there. Oh, that's another part of the checklist.
Right.
What type of weapon is it? That's another part of
that
my
changes
weapon.
my range.
That changes everything else, right? The length of the weapon, no weapon. What part of my weapon? Is it the puño end? Is it the tip end? Is it the slashing end? Or is it on the blunt side of my weapon? Each of those things I'm looking at. I'm also looking at rhythm and timing as I move from one to the other, from one side to the other. Again,
Now,
part of
and,
this
and
checklist.
just to be sure, because this checklist doesn't mean you have to run through the whole gambit of things.
No, it could be one single thing for that training
each,
session,
yes.
for that one session.
So then that's the template for the thought process behind it. So would you say that training is something that we do personally, but when
Well,
we're
yeah,
together,
it should be.
it's class time?
Well,
Yeah,
in class
you
time,
learn in
you're learning
class,
something.
you train at home.
Right, because I wanted to point that out because there has to be a differentiation.
And we've
because
taught that in the beginning. And for every new student, we do tell them,
Yes.
we do tell them that you learn here, you train at home.
right. There's a big
And
emphasis.
throughout time, you will understand, oh, that's another one I can use for
You know,
my
and you
checklist.
venture to think, how is that said in other classes? That, okay, we're
I
here,
don't know.
you're learning this today, blah, blah,
Is it
blah.
said in other classes?
Well, that's
Yeah.
why. And for us to say it here, that this is something we constantly preach, that
From the
you're
beginning,
learning
yeah.
stuff in class, but you got to practice at home. And we always know that you're, whether you are or not.
We know, yeah.
When you come in, you haven't changed, you did not.
Well, if anything else, they perfected that technique or that kata.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I perfected it snaps. It's spot on. Everything is there.
Use that outside
But
of that.
that is the purpose of their training.
Right.
But what else is there? That's
How-
just only one part
And
of my
that's how the
checklist.
checklist then comes into play.
Right. So you create the development of your own training into a little checklist so you can pick them off one by one and say, for this hour, this is all I'm going to do.
So, Danny, as an instructor, do you create a checklist for the lessons that you're about to give?
I have spoken and say, this is a checklist that you can add.
Ah,
It's up to you to remember those, or again, it's a mental checklist, but you can definitely write it down to the point that I read it, or now it's become a mental checklist.
Becomes
I don't need to
ingrained.
look at my list anymore
right.
because I have it all here now.
Yeah, and I think you notice that I do the same thing. Where whenever I'm going to show you something, even though we don't necessarily ever have everything prepped for the day to learn.
Right.
But once we do pick a topic, I run through the whole gambit of stuff.
Right, like
So
these
you
conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we run through this da 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 da, and here, and then we get to where we're
Right.
going. That is, at our level, that is our checklist. Is that we run it off because we understand what the checklist is,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk through every piece of that.
Wow.
And when you get to a certain level, you just automatically, because you've trained enough and you're diligent enough
You
to
train the
understand,
process.
you've trained the process, and you go through that process each time you do train. For the new folks coming in, it still has to process that
Yeah,
way.
it still has
It
to
still
be
has to
written
develop,
down. They
yeah.
have to make
It has
a
to be
little
developed
checklist.
to become the norm of how they train.
Right.
So we trained them to train.
And that really is
And that's
the case.
important, right?
It's funny to say out loud, though. We train
Yeah.
people to train. Like,
Right.
wow.
Then why am I
How they
paying you,
train.
goddammit? What the hell's going on
Teach
here?
you to teach yourself.
We
That's
teach
the other
you to
one.
teach yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I
And then
coming
we
to class
teach
for?
you to train yourself.
Right.
And I've had other instructors say that that's a unique way of doing it because you don't get that a lot. I mean, we've had other grandmasters tell us, being self-taught
Yeah.
in that process of learning to self-teach.
Yeah, you give the student that responsibility for
Yeah,
themselves.
and then it becomes on them. They can't go back and say, "Oh, you never taught me." Yeah, what?
Where were you?
Yeah,
All right. So now for Nain, at his level, we train the trainer. He's going to be the trainer, but we teach him how to train the trainers to train themselves.
Try saying
And
that.
again,
10
what do I
times
need
fast.
him for? The student said, "What the hell do I need him for?" We just
this is why
bypass
we're
the
not making
middleman.
any money.
This is
And
why we
that's
don't make
right.
any money.
And we
That's why we
just
need a
love it.
full-time job.
We love it.
Yeah, it's too much
But
fun.
and it makes it so much more rewarding, though, doesn't it?
It is.
When the student gets it, and you're like, and you see them running off their checklist, or you see them doing all these things.
You see the wheels in their heads
Ding, ding,
turning.
ding, ding,
Yeah,
ding,
they
ding,
have
ding,
those
ding, ding.
big wide-eyed moments, and you're just like, got it, now show me.
Yeah, and I think that's our reward in that sense, that we see
Yeah.
that these things are being run through their heads. You can
Yeah.
almost look at it and read it on their foreheads.
Right, like,
Oh,
they're almost
That's
there.
how they pay
They're
us.
almost
Can't buy
there.
nothing, but
Yeah.
No, we can't buy
that's how they
anything with
pay
it.
us.
Yeah,
That's how they pay us.
but it's a valuable payment.
Self gratification
Yeah.
of that, receiving that I accomplished what I was trying to do, and they got it.
Wow, we're terrible business people.
It's not a business for us. It's a way of life.
It really is. It really is.
and that in itself changes the mentality, doesn't it?
In all teachings, in all aspects of
But
teaching.
if you're looking at it that way, and it's not about the money.
I think that's been covered here before.
we have to a certain extent, but to really talk about the process behind it, because there has to be some sort of process. It can't just be a bunch of random stuff off the cuff. There has to
No.
be a legitimate way to really take this information, and like you said, that mental checklist is one of those ways that we really check ourselves from our levels of understanding, which we've also talked about, from our 10 Commandments, which we develop lessons from
Yeah, it does.
beyond all that.
Yes.
So it's these little things that, for the most part, innocuous, but mean everything to the blade of mind.
Yeah.
And that's what this is.
You know, for me as an instructor to Naive, whenever he and I train, I will always appreciate that when he gets what I'm talking about within the first 5 minutes of what we're talking about. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like, okay, good.
We've
you
reached
know,
that level, yeah.
You know, you've gotten to this point where I can just tell you a couple of things about it.
And that's exactly
Your
what
eyes
it's
light
for.
up and say, "Oh," and then we go from there, and then we do the physical of it and try to
you're
make
like,
it work.
And then you're like, yeah.
We had one today,
Oh, yeah.
hitting that tree. And I said, Naeem, teach fluid strike. And at first he thought he knew where I was going with it. But as we got in, he goes, oh, now I know what you're trying to do now.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a simple
Right,
1
the
and
understanding.
11
Right.
at long range. And then I showed her something different at the end of
Close
that.
up.
She goes, is that the way it's supposed to be done? Yeah, for the moment, whatever it is that you're trying to do. But again, the process of a fluid strike is when the wrist breaks and I'm trying to reach.
Right.
That's the main, let's say, the main definition of a fluid strike.
The
that
level
wrist
one.
break. The level one idea is that the wrist breaks and comes around, it breaks, rather than keeping
chopping,
this,
yeah.
the chopping motion of a 90-degree angle here, right? And we're trying to get this concept and idea that you understand the definition or the aspect of why it's called a fluid strike, that there is a certain reach to it, that you have to break the wrist to get that reach, right? That's part of that definition.
But not necessarily the only way to be used.
No, not exactly. So then, is it only used at long range because you're trying to reach?
Right.
Because if I'm at medium range, I can use my chopping ability.
No
Okay.
absolutes.
No, absolutely.
But in that process also, it can be the fluid in that when you blade over.
And
That's
that
where-
was
that's
where
where
the
I was
lesson
going
went.
with that,
That's where the lesson
right?
went.
And I just wanted
So-
to point that out in case
But the
you
fact that the
Ah.
range changes doesn't mean that the strike itself has to change.
Right.
There are some slight modifications to the way that it's delivered, but because the wrist breaks, it still constitute as a
a
fluid,
fluid strike. Right.
Right. It just doesn't happen up here. It may happen down here.
It's almost
That's
like
a
creating a checklist of what actually defines it, and then
Right.
do you fit that checklist? If
That
so,
criteria.
the
Criteria's
criteria.
there,
So it
right?
works.
But again, as they train, they have to visualize the difference between that, and you have to again understand the definition of what you're trying to accomplish or what you're instructed to do. And if you're stuck that you only see it that it happens up here, well, the requirement that it breaks. Well, can it break down here? I didn't say that it couldn't.
Right. Right.
Right. And that's why.
And that's the exploration of that idea.
And the fact that the student will say, "Does it have to be up here?"
The questioning
That's-
aspect of it.
Yeah.
question.
Then they start asking the questions of, "Oh, how am I processing this information?"
She asked me, "Oh, can I hit you like this?" She goes, "You just did." Oh yeah, huh?
But that's the thing.
I say, are you asking me, or you're demonstrating that you can?
Are you telling me that you can, or
I said,
you're
are you
asking
asking me
if
if
you-
I can? Well, you just did it, right?
So
Oh,
obviously
yeah,
you can.
Obviously you can. And again, if you don't question it to explore the idea,
Right.
and then when you can answer it yourself, you say, oh yeah, I can do that. Now, how can I do it better?
Good, better, best.
Goes back to that. And you see how this thing kind of full circles around the whole conversation.
Always.
The main theme behind the bladed mind is really understanding. And it all comes from up here on what you're trying to accomplish. And having this mental checklist will then bring you to your conclusion or your upper level of understanding.
And if you have questions, well, these guys
Question
are
is
more
someone.
than happy to.
These guys.
And sometimes it
modest.
just takes a single word.
Yeah, and
It
it
really
really
does.
is just a single. I mean, where me and Naeem play, it usually ends up being a single word that he
Yeah,
says. Oh,
the last
oh,
real
yeah.
class
I
we
get
had,
it.
you were like,
I get it.
"This is my weapon,
Yeah.
weapon." Ah, I know what you're talking about,
yes.
and I totally missed it.
That's a good one.
That is.
That's a good one.
Anything
else, guys?
whenever I think whenever we play, and I love the idea that you gave this to me a long time ago that it's called play rather than spar or fight or practice or whatever. And I've heard other people call it play.
Yeah.
Because it really is. You're just playing because you're not trying to hurt each other. There is no fighting. There is no malice of any kind.
Yeah.
We call it play because, we want to work on this and I want to get some ideas. And very much like what we did up there, even though everybody thought, we're sparring. Or
Strategy is part of play.
Yeah. So we're playing
strategize,
ideas.
you know,
You play the ideas. Let me try these things.
You turned a chess game into a lesson.
I know. You like that?
Well, after I got over my
Misdirection
frustration
is
of
losing the game.
losing the game,
You realize-
I was like, okay, there is a lesson here. All right, I won't be so mad at him anymore.
At least there was a purpose.
There was a purpose
There
behind
was a purpose
me
again.
losing
Let's
again.
Go back to that. The theme.
I believed I could do good.
Yeah, but I didn't
But I
know that I
knew.
could lose like that.
I know now that I lost.
Yeah, I know.
We take opportunities to give those lessons at any given time.
Well, knowing is half the battle. Go,
Yeah.
Joe.
Well, because Danny does the same to me. Like, we could be somewhere eating or doing something.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, there's a lesson involved. I'm like, God damn.
And you can't really, say too much about it because you're like, okay, that was a good lesson.
Yeah.
It is.
Here's 20
You can't
bucks.
deny it.
do
You
it.
can't deny it too much.
And again, the lesson is not there until it's there.
Yeah.
Think about that, right?
Yeah.
I was watching a concert one time on TV. They had a bunch of them, and something popped in my head. Rhythm and timing. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that? And of course, I
Yeah.
was drunk off my ass, and I'm just watching.
You
a concert
just started
on TV.
texting people at midnight and was like, hey,
Yeah,
what do you
yeah,
guys
you
think
asked
about
listen.
this?
My phone was.
And I was answering
he-
back
and
like,
he had to
what do
work
you
the next
mean?
day.
I happened to be drinking that same night too,
Yeah.
so I was like, whoa, what do you mean?
But
And
the
we have
lesson
this
just like popped up. I said, "Oh my
I'm thinking,
god!"
you assholes. I gotta work at 4 a.m. You fuck.
yeah. We were drunk, so we didn't realize
Yes.
that you were.
But it was a great
asleep.
training evening.
It
for
was.
us.
It was the concept
On
of
the
rhythm
cell
and
phone.
timing on
On
the cell phone. Yeah,
just
text
texting back
message.
and forth. Eventually, we had to call. Man, I'm getting tired of typing. The other nights that when something comes up, I'll just start texting. Hey, fuck it, I'm just gonna call.
Oh, is he
him.
awake?
Excuse me.
Oh, he's awake. All right, I'm gonna call him.
Why you up? I ain't got work tomorrow.
Yeah, that was always my answer. I was like, I'm not working tomorrow. I'm up.
Let's go.
Why not?
Let's train.
But it's
It's great when I can depend on him with that. Him,
not
no
so
calls
much.
after 10 o'clock.
No.
He's already
no
told
calls
me.
after 9:30.
Yeah, I
no
start
calls.
getting into the bed at about that time.
Yeah.
But and I think that's one of the things about the bladed mind is
Yeah.
that, and I've always offered our phone numbers to the students to say, hey, if you come up with something, you have a call.
Call me.
Yeah, give us a call.
Questions.
Yeah, but-
anything.
And I've had students call at 2 a.m. Who's that?
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah.
He texts me at 2 a.m. Hey, Curry, Rick. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I was mad, but
Yeah,
you can't be mad.
It's good.
But you got to.
At least you know they're training.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, he's
This
there
was
at
in
2
his head till 2 in the morning.
Right.
That he
just
fully
mulling
had.
over. It's like, oh, I gotta ask. What is this right? Am I going the
I
right
couldn't
way?
believe my phone was ding. Like, what the hell? I look over. It woke me up, and I'm like,
Those inspirational moments after a gallon of Crown Royal.
that'll
Or at
be
least a fifth.
That'll be the next YouTube thing. We're gonna get drunk first, and then we'll see where you're at in your thoughts.
Oh, that would definitely be a 3-hour video.
Well, I think
All
this
right.
is where we're gonna end, because now we're just getting drunk on the
getting
thought.
Just the thought
we
of
haven't even
drinking.
started drinking
Yeah, we're
yet.
already slurring.
You are. I don't know
Well,
about
this
you.
is our another week of Kali Conversation with me, Rick,
And me, Nain.
Hey, look
Special
at
guest.
here.
and Koya Dan's here
And I'm
because he
Yes.
wanted to be here.
Yeah, he
we
made
actually,
himself here.
We actually crashed his camping.
It wasn't the other way around?
No, we got
Oh,
invited to this.
we crashed.
Yeah, we
Okay.
crashed it. So,
So
thank you very much,
thank
and
you very
until
much.
next time,
Thank you
we'll see you
again.
then.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
And 3, 2, 1, cut!
Good one.